Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me for our fourth lesson on the tarot. And please take a look at my previous videos to get a better understanding what we're doing. But this time we are going over the Swords suit. Okay, so we'll take this journey. So swords are representative of air signs. Okay, so air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And I talk about my previous videos how this is a journey and through life lessons. And this is probably, this is usually how an air sign would handle situations. And so you have to think about that with all of the suits, okay? It doesn't mean that it's an air sign doing it when this comes up in a reading. It just means it's air sign energy. And so I'll explain as I go along. But if you're not familiar with air signs, swords and air signs really represent the intellect. They live in the ethers. They live in the air. So they're really about mental and the mental level of consciousness. They're about mind and intellect. They kind of mirror the quality of the mind that represents thoughts. Okay, so you'll see swords are a difficult suit. Mostly swords are just burdened by their thoughts in this journey that you'll see. And so it's really about being in your head and the lessons you learn from being in your head too much, okay? Because for stability, you need to not always just be in your head. But so this kind of represents being in your head. And a sword has two edges. So it's about finding balance between intellect and power, because air signs also can be very manipulative because they're so intelligent. And so it's about finding that balance and not letting that take over in power, okay? So, and also being air, they can be a breeze, a soft breeze, or they can be like a hurricane, okay, if you piss them off. So it's about knowledge, power, that sort of thing. Intellect, the mind. It's about the mind. So that's, if you have that background, let's go ahead and get started on our journey with the swords. And it is a journey. Okay, so let's start with the Ace of Swords, the one card. So this is a new idea that's kind of coming out of nowhere. It's mental clarity. I call it the truth card because it's like the honest, raw truth. There's not a lot behind it. There's no intentions of bad ill will. It's just, hey, here's the truth. And remember, the swords represent the mind. So that's what you will see along with all the other cards. It's also could mean success because we've got the crown here, the gold crown. And someone back here is super happy. So it's an innocent card. It's if it comes up, you know, in a negative reading, it could mean the truth is coming to light. So I always call it the truth card, okay? All right, and then along our journey, we have the Two of Swords. Now, notice here, in most twos, it's usually about making a decision on something. So you have two different things happening. So, and you notice that the person is blindfolded. The horse is kind of waiting patiently for its orders. And they're stuck here on, you know, this stone pillar. And they're, you know, they could die on that. It's like cold, hard truth has been given to them. A truth has been given to them. And now they're weighing their options. It's also, the blindfold means they're avoiding making a decision. So it could be where you're kind of in limbo. This is usually a card of being in limbo. And, you know, if she took the blindfold off, he or she took the blindfold off, they would see the opportunities that are presented. But they're kind of going within and thinking about before they hop on that horse, they're thinking about and contemplating And so, they're shutting the rest of the world out and going in their own head to figure things out. Okay. And the Three of Swords, this is the heartbreak card of the whole deck. Yeah, okay, so it's like, I always say this is a journey, and swords are all over the place, but this can still mean that, maybe you didn't make, when you took the blindfold off, you didn't make the right decision. Or even if you left the blindfold on, you're still going to be heartbroken. So it's like, no matter what road you went down, you're still going to have the heartbreak because maybe you were in your head too long and you weren't living in reality. Is kind of how I see this journey. And so it was inevitable if you keep that blindfold on and you live in your own head. And we all know what living in your head is like. It's not a good place to be. You have to have that balance of the other elements around you, and you have to live in the real world to actually you need to participate in order to. And it's hard for air signs. I know it's hard for air signs because we live in our heads. I can say that because I'm an Aquarius. But this is what happens when you live there too long, So this is the emotional pain. It's heartbreak, sorrow, grief, hurt. I mean, the card tells you the whole story. It's beating your head too long, and this is the grief that comes along with that. And it could be in a reading, a heartbreak. It could be, it's not just being in your head too long, heartbreak. Yes, it could be, but it could be in a reading. It could be you're actually heartbroken over something. Okay, anything. Then we have the Four. But if you understand the journey, you'll understand the cards more, because a lot of readers would just go, this is the heartbreak card. Well, why are you heartbroken? Because you're in your head too long. That's why I like, to tell people this journey. And I know a lot of readers don't do it this way. And I don't know if they even understand that it is a journey through the cards. And so if you do that, you would understand that this is about being in your head too long. And you're only causing yourself pain. It's not like it's coming from everybody else, because if you look in the background, everybody else is just living their lives. They didn't throw the swords there. You put the swords in your own heart. So I want you to remember that, okay? It's very important. Number 4. So this is where you're like, okay, I screwed up. Now I just need to, I need a break. And what you notice here is that, he has the 3 swords that were in his heart. He's taken them out of his heart, and he's hung them on the wall. And he's got his this other sword, that's his new kind of beginning, possibly, if he can get out of this state. It's, you don't want to stay here too long again, but it's about resting and recuperating, and contemplating kind of where you've been, meditating and thinking. Again, I know it's still being in your head, because swords are all about being in your head, but it's in a more restful state. So it's not like this, the 2, where you're ignoring the rest of the world. He, put the blindfolds on. Now, this guy realizes finally that there's people around, and they help him. Those, you need other people around you to get through things. And so he recognizes that, and he's going, okay, well, how can I learn from my lesson? All right. So he's recouping. And we have the 5, and 5s are always in all the whole deck. It's usually conflict. So this is like conflict, defeat. It's about competition. But what's different here is that this guy is taking all of that knowledge that he thought he learned, and he's taking it out on other people. And if you notice, there's a house burning, and he's got all the swords. He just defeated people. The winds are kind of crazy, so he's angry, probably. He's probably more than anything angry at himself. But he wants to win at all costs. And even so, he won the battle, but he didn't win the war, because the war is, will eventually come back, or that'll come back to you. And so even though people gave up their swords and he won this conflict that happened, nobody really won, because look, he's all alone. Nobody's standing by his side like they just were. Okay, he had people stand by his side, but he thought, oh, I can conquer all of this and be happy, but he's all alone. Okay, and he's got this buildup of anger with all that wind happening, because remember, swords are air. Okay. Then we move along to the 6, and this is where it's like, okay, I'm leaving all this behind, and I need a change. I'm moving on. I'm releasing all of my baggage, but not totally, because if you look here, he's kind of like, he's put his swords down, and now he's got a wand, and he's taking action. Wands are action cards, and so he's actually taking action. He's incorporating other things besides just his thoughts, his swords. And this is good for him, because look at the sky is kind of cleared. It's calm waters, and he's got people around him again. And the thing about this card is that what you notice is all the swords is that he's moving on, but he's taking his lessons learned, which is these swords, and he's remembering what he did wrong in the past. So in a calm state, and he's moving on. So he's taking that knowledge with him and moving on to better waters. Okay. Then we have the 7, and this is funny, because to me, when I look at this, I'm like, oh, the swords are wooden. And so you notice here too, the swords start to turn wooden a couple cards back. Like here, they were metal, and then we've got metal, and then they were sword, like we've got the wand and the metal, but then all of a sudden the swords look like they're made out of wood. And so like that energy from the fire sign, the wands, he's incorporating that into his own being. So he's changing as a person. He's maturing. And what they say, air signs, fire signs are opposite of air, and they need each other. And air doesn't necessarily need fire, but fire needs air. And so they're taking some of that with them. They're taking some of that energy with them. Okay. And so now with the 7, they're taking that energy, but they're like, I'm going to steal some of that energy for myself, and not really share it. And so it's not like it's like you took advantage of it. You're not sharing it with the world. You're just trying to grow yourself. And so you're stealing that. So this is a card about betrayal, being deceitful, getting away with something. And, he thinks he got away with it, but he's looking over his shoulder. So he is taking that knowledge with him, but not in a way that's cohesive where you're growing with people around you, because somewhere along the line you abandoned these people because you're all alone again. So maybe this wasn't the best decision to make. Okay. Then we move on to the 8, and this is where it all catches up with you, because the negative thoughts, now you've bound yourself up again. The negative thoughts are really coming down heavy, and maybe you've realized that probably wasn't the best thing. It's another lesson to learn about balance and not having complete power all the time. It could really be about, having a lot of negative thoughts, self-imposed restriction where you've put yourself here because you're like, okay, I fucked up again. Excuse my language. It's that victim mentality, like, oh, poor me. Here I am again. I was there a long time ago, but here I am again. But now I've got more baggage, right? So, and then you move on into the 9, and it's where you really know, like, you've got to make a breakthrough. You've got to either start, living in the world and not living in the ethers, get out of your own head, or this is where it leads you to anxiety, worry, fear, nightmares, keeping you up at night, and you're still all alone. You're only left with your nightmares. And we're back to, we moved away from wooden swords and we're back to the steel swords. And so you're back in your head again. Okay. You didn't really learn much there. Okay. And then, the 10 here is about the pain finally ending. It's deep wounds. It's a lot of loss, and it was all self-inflicted. Okay. And so, but what you see here in the background, you see someone coming for you and trying to, there's only one person there, and, it's where's everybody else? You've cut everybody else out. And so really with the swords, this is a kind of a harsh journey, right? But this is a good